Good evening, folks. Ken Hovind here and the crew at Dinosaur Adventureland in Lenox, Alabama, March the 12th, 2020. Tonight will be our Bible study, Acts chapter 14, coming soon to a city near you. We're the folks who believe the Bible is true, evolution is stupid, and dinosaurs always lived with man. They called them dragons or some other name, and there might be some still around. And evolution is the dumbest and most dangerous religion in the world. Any visitors tonight? I forgot to take off the North Carolina ones. No? Okay. Staff lunch, if you want to sponsor a lunch for our staff to go out to eat, takes about 150, almost 300 last week. Pay for everybody, and we'll advertise your business right here. So, sponsored by so-and-so. Okay, let's see. Chris and Jen, his name is Jen, are willing to haul stuff here to Dinosaur Adventureland. If you know somebody who wants to send something here, we need a pressure washer, a big professional pressure washer. We have the little bitty one, you know, that squirts out 4 drops a second.
Yamaha.
Yamaha? That's the best? I know, pressure washer. Let's see. If you want to help us stay open for free and stay healthy at the same time, you can get Shackley vitamins. They are fabulous. And go to our website, drdino.com, and scroll down to where it says Shackley, and then click there and do what it says. You can call Chad. He's got great advice on how to be healthy. Let's see. We'd like to get a miniature horse. If you know somebody's got one, wants to donate, we'd love to get one. And some more parrots. How many parakeets do we have now?
We got 10 parakeets.
10 parakeets. I'm getting sugar gliders this Saturday.
Right.
He's got all kinds of critters here.
Cockatiels, lovebirds.
Cockatiels, lovebirds, anything, look, so the kids can go, oh wow, look what God made on day 5. You can join our 777 club, help us to open for free. We ask folks if they can, give $1 a day so we can keep winning souls and expanding the ministry here. drdino.com, go right there on our website and click donate button. Make any checks to CSE. Okay, we're in the book of Acts, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, which is in the New Testament. The first 4 books are the Gospels. And then Luke wrote the book of Luke, the biography of Jesus, and then he also wrote the book of Acts. So we are in chapter 14, slide number 682, and bingo. Acts chapter 14. And it came to pass in Iconium that they went both together into the synagogue of the Jews. Hey, Steve, is the AC's on, right?
Yeah, you can feel it.
Okay. They went into the synagogue of the Jews and so spake. That's I like that phrase. They talked so persuasively that a great multitude, both of the Jews and also of the Greeks, believed. Are you able to articulate what you believe and talk persuasively and explain your point and say, wow, that's true. I guess you're right. I believe that. When I first got involved in the creation ministry 30 years ago, I had read all the books by Henry Morris and Dwayne Gish and all these guys, and I thought, this is great stuff, but whoa, they're talking up here. And most people are saying, wow, he's smart. What did he say? You know, so I said, somebody's got to dumb this down for the 4th graders and make it persuasive and simple and easy to understand. And I worked very hard at trying to do that and avoid all the, trying to impress anybody with, huge words and stuff like that. Okay, so verse number 2. But the unbelieving Jews stirred up the Gentiles and made their minds evil affected against the brethren. There's always some moron trying to stir other people up to where they hate the person who's trying to do what's right. That's what gossip and rumors are all about, trying to discourage people from listening to somebody else. Here they are in Iconium. If you look at the map, this is actually the country of Turkey, the coastline. They came up and landed here. John Mark saw the mountains and said, man, I'm getting out of here. This is work. So they're over at Iconium. Now later, John on the Isle of Patmos wrote the book of Revelation, and God told him to write and send it to 7 churches which are in Asia. Many of these churches are right here. Pergamos was one of them. Saul was from Tarsus, this city. And you'll see some of these cities mentioned later, so just kind of get the Bible map in your head. This is what it's talking about. Okay. Long time, therefore, abode they, speaking boldly in the Lord. So they stayed there a while and taught. By the way, internet is coming up tomorrow, live.
We have it now, it's just not dialed in quite enough for
Okay,
streaming.
so tomorrow night, Friday night, the Q&A can be live.
Yes.
All right, praise God. So they stayed there a long time teaching the Bible, which gave testimony unto the word of his grace and granted signs and wonders to be done by their hands. So they're still doing miracles. My position is the New Testament church was able to do all these signs and wonders because they didn't have a New Testament. It wasn't written yet. They were writing it. So once it was done, I think they stopped. Just like when Moses got the people out of Egypt, the signs stopped. No need for them anymore. Okay, verse number 4. But the multitude of the city was divided, and part held with the Jews and part with the apostles. And when there was an assault made, both of the Gentiles and also of the Jews, with their rulers, to use them despitefully and to stone them, you guys are serious. How can you not like something somebody is teaching so badly that you want to kill them? that's, that's a special kind of dumb, isn't it? Okay. And to stone them. They were aware of it. That's, today we'd say they were aware of it. And fled unto Lystra and Derbe, cities of Lycaonia, and unto the region that lieth round about. So they were preaching over here. They fled to Lystra and Derbe, getting away from Iconium. They're going to get beat up if they stay there. And there they preached the gospel, and there sat a certain man at Lystra, impotent in his feet. Impotent, impotent, no power. Being a cripple from his mother's womb, who never had walked. Remember, we saw this earlier in the book of Acts, where they healed, in Acts chapter 3, healed a crippled man who had never had walked. The same heard Paul speak, who steadfastly beholding him, and perceiving that he had faith to be healed, said with a loud voice, Stand upright on thy feet. And he leaped and walked. And when the people saw what Paul had done, they lifted up their voices, saying, In the speech of Lycaonia, now this is important, these guys started saying things to each other in their language, which Paul probably did not understand. So they're talking to each other in Lycaonian, or whatever language they spoke. The gods are come down to us in the likeness of men. So in order to heal a man who never had walked, so he could leap and walk in 1 second, all kinds of things have to be fixed. The muscles, the tendons, the cartilage, the bones. I went in today to see what's wrong with my shoulder. I think I tore it hitting a home run in softball in prison. I remember something didn't sound right or feel right, and just slowly over the last 5 years, it's gotten worse and worse. Doctor looked me over, and he said, well, we're going to have to do an MRI and all this kind of stuff, but today I'll just give you a cortisone shot. Boy, was that fun. Needle this long, you know. Come on, show me some sympathy here, okay? But it's better. The joint is, at least I don't feel it anymore. It's not good yet, but it's better. So in order to heal this guy's feet, the cartilage, the muscles, the circulatory system, the tendons, the ligaments, everything has to be healed at the same time. Oh, somebody has to know all about the foot, like maybe God, to do the healing of this. One could study the foot for 1,000 years and still not comprehend it all. It is amazingly complex, just your foot. You can study the nervous system, the unreal. Can you right now close your eyes and wiggle your right big toe? Yeah. The body is phenomenal in all the things you can do, you know. So anyway, his balance system has to be healed. He'd never walked. Now he's leaping and walking. The part of the brain that runs the balance system is incredibly complex. So the brain part of the brain has to be developed in 1 microsecond, as well as the bones and the muscles and ligaments and everything else. So his inner ear, the cochlea that sends the signals for balance, all that is fixed. He can leap and walk instantly. That's, I'd say, quite a miracle. Anyway, and they call Barnabas Jupiter. So these guys are speaking in their language, and they're saying, oh, that guy must be Jupiter, one of the gods that they worshipped. And Paul must be Mercurius, because they worshiped the god Mercury, because he was the chief speaker. Then the priest of Jupiter, which was before the city, brought oxen and garlands unto the gates, and would have done sacrifice with the people. So they're going to bring a cow and kill it and say, wow, thank you, God, for coming to visit us, talking about Paul. Which, when the apostles Barnabas and Paul heard of, they rent their clothes and ran in among the people, crying out and saying, Sirs, why do ye these things? We are also men of like passions with you, and preach unto you that ye should turn from these vanities unto the living God. Quit worshiping idols. And you evolutionists, stop worshiping rocks as your grandfather. Stop, okay? It's dumb. That's not your grandpa. Worship the living God, which made heaven and earth and the sea and all these things that are therein, who in times past suffered all nations to walk in their own ways. Now, in Old English, King James English, suffered means allowed. He suffered him to go someplace. He allowed him. Verse 17. Nevertheless, he left not himself without witness, in that he did good and gave us rain from heaven and fruitful seasons, fulfilling our hearts with food and gladness. And with these sayings, scarce restrained they the people. So they finally talked these people into not sacrificing to them. So one minute, they think they're gods and going to sacrifice to them. Paul gives a little speech and says, don't do this, stop. Okay, so they stopped. That they had not, verse 19, and there came thither certain Jews from Antioch and Iconium who persuaded the people, and having stoned Paul, so they went from getting ready to worship him and offer sacrifices to killing him. The crowd can turn on you in a second. How many have ever seen somebody's attitude just flip? You know, one minute they're happy, cheerful, joyful. The next minute they're the wicked witch of the West. Like, what happened here, you know? Wow.
Isn't that most women?
Should we edit that out? Isn't that most women? Here's a microphone. Squeeze that wire. Okay. And having stoned Paul, drew him out of the city, supposing he'd been dead. Now, it's interesting. When you read in 2 Corinthians, Paul is writing to the Corinthian church, which he went and helped start later. He said, are they Hebrews? So am I. Are they Israelites? So am I. Are they the seed of Abraham? So am I. Are they ministers of Christ? I speak as a fool. I more. In labors more abundant. In stripes above measure. He'd been beaten a bunch of times. In prisons more frequent. In deaths oft. Afraid of dying or maybe even killed. Of the Jews, 5 times received I 40 stripes, save one. Remember, the Jews were allowed to they couldn't give more than 40 stripes. Jesus was beaten by the Romans. They didn't have that rule. So we don't know how many stripes he got. But 5 times, Paul was beaten 39 stripes. Thrice I was beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. So he's talking about this time at Lystra. Thrice I suffered shipwreck. A night and a day have I been in the deep. Ship sank and he's floating around for a night and a day. How'd you like to be in the middle of the ocean for a night floating around? In journeys often, in perils of waters, in perils of robbers, in perils by my own countrymen, in perils by the heathen, in perils in the city, in perils in the wilderness, in perils in the sea, in perils among false brethren. That's about the toughest one right there. Somebody to your face, they smile and they tell how much they love you, and then behind your back, they're saying all kinds of stuff about you. Anybody ever been stabbed in the back before? Okay. In weakness and painfulness, in watchings often, in hunger and thirst, in fastings often, in cold and nakedness. This guy's been through the mill. Beside those things that are without, things happen to me from the outside, that which cometh upon me daily, the care of all the churches. He not only had all this pressure from the outside, he had a burden on the inside, taking care of all the churches he'd started and helping these people and writing to them. Paul is living his whole life under a lot of pressure. Now, in the military, when somebody gets wounded in battle, they give them a Purple Heart. They make a big ceremony out of it and reward them. Wow, thank you for your service for our country. In Matthew chapter 5, Jesus said, blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are ye when men shall revile you and persecute you and put up false websites about you. I made that one up. Oh. And shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceeding glad, for great is your reward in heaven. You think a Purple Heart ceremony is something. Wait till you see. If you tolerate persecution for the Lord, wait till you get to heaven and see what's coming. For so persecuted they the prophets which were before you. Back to Acts 14. Howbeit, as the disciples stood round about him, they dragged Paul out of the city, dead, stoned. He rose up and came into the city. They just rocked him to sleep, or stoned him to death, and dragged him out of the city. He stood up, went right back in. And the next day he departed with Barnabas to Derbe. You can't keep a good man down.
That's where they said rock on.
Rock on? Is that it? Okay. Proverbs 24 says, a just man falleth 7 times and riseth up again. If you get knocked down in your spiritual life, or if you're trying to break a bad habit, people that are trying to lose weight or quit smoking or quit drinking or quit drugs or struggling with something, when you fail, get up and do it again. Try again. I made it 4 days without smoking. I fell off the wagon, Brother Hope. Okay, well then let's go 5 days next time. But get off, go again. Don't give up. Walt Disney is the businessman behind the very successful theme park, Walt Disney World. Walt Disney is reportedly fired by a newspaper editor for not having good ideas and no imagination. Disney today is worth $35 billion. Thomas Edison Before becoming successful, Edison tried more than 10,000 times to invent the light bulb. When Edison was asked about his failures, Edison stated he knew definitively 9,000 ways that electric light will not work. Got to be getting close. Fred Smith, the founder of hugely successful company FedEx. Smith's college professor stated that his concept of Federal Express was interesting but not feasible. Didn't give up, did he? Steve Jobs, fired from Apple Computers, the very company he's responsible for making it successful. When Jobs was fired from Apple, he was quoted as saying, "I didn't see it then, but it turned out that getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have happened to me. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again. Less sure about everything, it freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life." If you have failed in anything, been knocked down, or you fell off yourself, nobody else knocked you down, you did it to yourself. How many of you have ever done something dumb to yourself? Didn't need anybody on the outside to help, okay? Oprah Winfrey, the queen of daytime talk TV, was fired from her news reporter gig at a Baltimore news station. She went on to build a successful following for her daytime talk show, The Oprah Winfrey Show. Her net worth is $2.7 billion. Steve Spielberg, rejected from film school 3 times. Think about that. Before getting his huge break, Spielberg is known for directing mega hits that include Jurassic Park and Jaws. Rejected from film school. Bernie Marcus and Arthur Blank, founders of the home improvement chain, the Home Depot. Anybody ever heard of Home Depot? They were fired from corporate America in 1989. These savvy businessmen went on to turn their big box store into a huge success and currently have 2,200 retail stores in the United States, revenues exceeding $74.8 billion. What do you think? Did they make it?
Slightly.
Vince Lombardi, winners never quit and quitters never win. Now, if you're struggling with something, how many of you are struggling with something in your life right now? Don't quit. Paul got stoned to death, drag him outside the city. He says, "Whoa, that hurt. I'm going back in and preach some more." I don't know who Albert Hubbard is, but there's no failure except in no longer trying. You just can't beat a person who won't give up, Babe Ruth said. Most of the important things in the world have been accomplished by people who have kept on trying when there seemed to be no hope at all, Dale Carnegie. Our greatest weakness lies in giving up. The most certain way to success is always to try just one more time, Thomas Edison said. So Paul, his mission is to go out and preach the gospel to these people. Some of them loved it, some of them hated it. They killed him, dragged him out of the city. He walked right back in, said, "I'm not done preaching to you. And you evolutionists, listen carefully. I'm not done working on you either. I'm going to keep going, okay?" Anyway, Acts 14. "And when they had preached the gospel to that city and taught many, they returned again to Lystra and to Iconium and Antioch." So they finished their mission field here and went back and went to Antioch, confirming the souls of the believers and exhorting them to continue in the faith. All of us should be involved in this ministry right here, encouraging other people. How many of you have ever had a bad day and you needed somebody to come along and encourage you? Right. Every old tire, you got to check the pressure once in a while and add a little air. Pump it up. Come on, you can do it. Go, go, go. And that we must, through much tribulation, enter into the kingdom of God. You're going to get persecuted. You're going to get laughed at, ridiculed. Keep going. "And when they had ordained them elders in every church and prayed with fasting, they commended them to the Lord, on whom they believed. And after that they passed through Pisidia, they came to Pamphylia, and when they had preached the word in Perga, they went down into Attalia." Here they are. Pamphylia is a region. Sometimes it's talking about a city, sometimes it's talking about a region. It'd be like saying I'm going to Alabama instead of I'm going to Birmingham, a city or a state. "And from thence to Antioch, from whence they had been recommended to the grace of God for the work which they fulfilled. And when they were come and had gathered the church together, they rehearsed all that God had done with them, and how he had opened the door of faith unto the Gentiles, and there they abode long time with the disciples." So they went back to Antioch. There's 2 Antiochs. They were at this Antioch first, and now they sailed back to this Antioch, stayed there a long time, and had Bible study, I guess, and it helped the church to grow. Okay? That's Acts 14. Any questions or comments from this one? Lesson in don't give up. How many have been discouraged and thought about giving up on whatever it is you think you need to do? Whether it's learning a new skill, losing weight, quitting a habit, whatever it is, just don't quit. Keep going. The secret to life. Never, never, never. I heard Winston Churchill during World War II got up in front of the people of England, you know, and he stood there, looked around. Of course, I don't know how the stories, if it's true, but stories get stretched over time. Stood there and looked over the crowd, didn't say a word for quite some time, maybe a couple minutes. Walked up, they were getting bombed by the Germans, you know, and getting beaten in every battle just about. He looked over the crowd and he said, never, 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 never give up. Turned around, walked off. Got a standing ovation. England could have easily given up. You got a habit, got something you're trying to whoop, don't give up. All right. Tomorrow, question answer, hopefully live right here from Dinosaur. We'll start at 6:30. We're going to take as many questions as we can. They got the super chat thing. If you want to make any kind of donation, send it in, and we'll put your questions at the top and answer as many as we can. Any questions, fair game, we'll take them on. Okay, thank you so much. If you haven't seen all the progress here, these guys do all the work around here. It's amazing what's happening. This place is phenomenal. It's mind-boggling to see. And I gave how many tours today before I had to go to the doctor? 3, I think. And those, it's just life-changing to see what these people, they look at these messages. The two guys, I would guess there's 18 or 19, came in the big old white redneck pickup truck, you know, and the high school girl was with them. When we got to the top of the cliff and asked, you know, should we drive down or not, you know?
They're like, yeah.
Yeah, let's go. A lot of good lessons to learn around here. Come visit Dinosaur Adventureland. See you tomorrow. Bye.